I'm interviewing women that I admire, respect, and I know that we can learn from. My role is to bring out their best practices, their routines, their habits, their thought processes, so that you and I can apply what we learn to improve our lives. We're also going to travel back in time to look at where they came from. How did they attain their skills? What were their thoughts back then? What would they give their younger self? So join me. Tonight we're talking to Lori Matsukawa, who is a news anchor for King 5 TV. She is a Seattleite and a pillar in our community. She's won numerous awards and has been on many boards, both community and nonprofit. And in fact, I met her at a community event when I was maybe 7 or so. It was very exciting because I would see her on the news and then I see her in person. Oh my gosh! We're at this Japanese festival and I have a picture. And it's still exciting at age 42. She's the type of person who's really nice to everyone. And she takes her storytelling talent and brings it outside of her work and shines a light on other communities who need a little more attention so they can fundraise and they can get the word out of what their cause is. And as you listen to this interview, you can see her passion come through on the projects that she's working on. She is an incredible community leader, and I'm so glad to introduce her to you.
So, Laura, you've been in the business for, what, 38 years?
38 years, right?
So what do you love about the business? Because that's a long time.
When I first graduated from college, I didn't want to be a stupid woman. So I picked a job where I would learn something new every day. And this is it. That's what I like the most about this job, is that I learn something new every day. I get to meet fantastic people. I get to meet some not so fantastic people. And I get to travel around this city, this state, the country, the world. What's not to like, you know?
Let's go back to the stupid people, stupid woman. So how did you get that in your head? Like the idea, like, I want to do something to avoid?
Well, when I was in college, the women's rights movement was really kind of gaining steam, and there was a lot of push to get women into careers, to make sure that they could, be promoted in their careers. And so we wanted to bash all those stereotypes about women, like women are stupid, or women are not educated, or women are not aware of their environment or society. I just wanted to be smart. I wanted to know about what was going on. And so I said, what better thing to do than to be a journalist where I am paid to learn things and to meet people and to be aware. So it was kind of selfish, but it worked out. It worked out.
What were some of the other options?
I originally wanted to be a piano teacher, and then I became Miss Teenage America.
Yes.
You know, that whole thing, I was looking for scholarship money, and a friend said, hey, if you join this contest and you win, you get a scholarship. And I said, okay. And he said, the best part of it, you don't have to wear a swimsuit.
Oh.
No bathing suit.
What, really?
It was just a general knowledge test, a talent, and an interview. I said, good.
Yeah.
So I entered this contest. It was great fun. I won the contest. For 1 year, my senior year in high school, I was Miss Teenage America. So that meant half the month I'd go to school and just be a normal student. And then the other half of the month I would travel the country and be Miss Teenage America. And that meant giving speeches and being in the Dr. Pepper, riding the Dr. Pepper float in parades, because Dr. Pepper was our national sponsor. And it was meeting wonderful people. And every city I went to, I would talk to a journalist. Television journalist, radio journalist, print journalist. So I said, piano teacher is a good job, but it'd be even more fun to be a journalist because you'd get paid to talk to people. You'd be paid to go to the Kentucky Derby and talk to people. So
did you go?
Yeah. So Miss Teenage America, you go to the Kentucky Derby, the Indy 500, the Orange Bowl. We went to big cities. We went to New York. We went to little towns like Tullahoma, Tennessee. But everywhere I went, even in Tullahoma, Tennessee, I was talking to a journalist. So that's when I started thinking, journalism, that's for me. And so when I went to college, I decided to intern every summer. As a summer intern at the newspaper back in Hawaii. In my senior year in college, I got to intern at a television station in San Francisco, and so I was ready. I was getting ready to be a journalist. And I didn't know if I was going to be a print or a broadcast journalist, because I could do both. And what finally made me decide to be a broadcast journalist was it's a young person's job. I figured in those days you had to carry your own gear.
Okay.
So I figured I have to be young and strong enough to carry my own gear. So I'll do television first. And then when I'm wrinkled and toothless, then I'll be a print reporter because nobody cares what I look
radio,
like.
right?
Yeah, or radio.
Sorry.
So that's when I said, okay, I'll do television first and then I'll become a print reporter when I'm wrinkled and toothless. So that was my idea.
Nice.
And now, 37 years later, I'm still doing TV, which is wonderful, which says a lot about women and their progress in society. That women
yes.
can be this age and still be on TV,
Yes.
right?
Question, when you entered into the market, were there other Asian American women as TV broadcasters?
Yes, there were. In fact, in Seattle, there was Wendy Takuda and Barbara Tanabe. And down in LA, there was Trisha Toyota and Connie Chung, of course, back then.
Oh, right. Oh.
So there were Asian American women. Not as many Asian American men, but
Still aren't, right?
still not as many as we'd like to see, but they're there. And so that was a lot of the impetus for me getting involved with the Asian American Journalists Association.
Ah, AAJA.
AAJA. Because Bill Singh, one of the founders of AAJA, is from Mercer Island, Washington. He was at the time a reporter at the Los Angeles Times, good friends with Trisha Toyota. They started talking. Bill Singh and I had gone to Stanford together. And so we started talking about this group called AAJA. So LA was the first chapter, San Francisco was the second, and Seattle was the third chapter.
Wow.
So the Bill Singh, Mercer Island, Lori, Stanford, Trisha Toyota connection was all there. And Wendy Takuda, who is from here, Seattle, was working in San Francisco. So it was just this kind of wonderful little thing that was going on back then.
Yeah, and you were a part of that.
Right.
That is cool.
30 years, that was 30 years ago when the Seattle chapter came to be.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So media has changed a lot, particularly TV media. So what are some of the positive changes that you see?
Well, I think the positive changes is that you will see it immediately. You will see the news so much faster. The immediacy is right there. You'll see it on your phone instantly, right? Or you'll see it on social media right away. And you will see it even, live broadcasts just are everywhere. The technology has come so far, and so it brings you instant information. That's an advantage and a disadvantage.
Okay.
Because for us, the reporters, it's just working harder and faster. I mean, technology can make work easier for you, but it also puts more demands on you. You have to be faster. You have to do multiple platforms, not just broadcast, but you have to do website, you have to do social media, you have to do reporting on all these platforms quickly and just as accurately. So it's a lot of hard work. It
So
is.
what do you think about that? Because now your job is a lot more work, and you have to be that much more authentic, right?
And I've found that I anchor 5 newscasts a night. And it wasn't that way when I first started. I anchored 2 or 3 newscasts a night. Now I do 5. And they're either a half hour or an hour long. So it's many hours of anchoring newscasts every night, in addition to doing the social media, in addition to writing for the website. So there are a lot of demands. So you have to kind of be young at heart and very curious all the time so that you can provide stories for your viewers and readers every day. Something that they'll remember or take home with them or talk about over the water cooler.
So speaking of, in terms of, I think most people actually don't know how the news works exactly. So how do you grab the stories? How does that work?
We depend on everybody to be our eyes and ears out there. So we get a lot of news story ideas from people tweeting something or texting us, sometimes calling. Hey, there's a big fire outside my house. Hey, why are all the cops around this school? Hey, we are being put in lockdown. What's going on? So everyone out there are a source of news. Of course, nothing beats going on your beat. So we have journalists who go to the courthouse, and journalists who call the police every day, and then there are journalists who go to schools every day. And
so then when all that information is here, what happens to it? Who has it, and then how is it distributed? How is it?
It all goes into this big list, and then they have a morning news meeting where they decide, okay, the dayside newscast, so noon, 4 and 5, 6:30, they divvy up the stories and decide which reporter gets what, which one is most important for the viewers, and which ones are, important for the record. They get assigned. And then the anchor people, like Dennis Mounds and myself, we come in. We read through what has been written, what has been reported. We, kind of edit it so that it's suitable for our voice or our storytelling style. And then we just charge into each newscast. So it's pretty demanding.
So what are your favorite types of stories to share?
I think my favorite stories are ones about the people in this region, in our state. Stories that tell about their life, because that's the most important thing about this job, is that you are helping people know their neighbors.
Yeah.
People in the Central District, need to know about the people in Bremerton, and people in Bremerton need to know about the people who live in Yakima, and people in Yakima need to know about the people who live in Tacoma. And I love hearing about people's lives here in Washington.
So you're speaking about a lot of positivity, but there's so much negative news. You're very positive. She's always smiley, always happy. So how do you manage that with all this negativity coming in?
Well, we do a lot of shouting off camera.
Which we'll see on
Can't believe this has happened. When something frustrating happens,
Yeah.
or when something very cruel happens, or when something very sad, or mass shootings. Mass shootings are the worst. I mean, you just go, oh no, not again. And yet, you go into this kind of emergency mode. It's like we've kind of done it so many times, it comes automatically, where people go out, they get their live shots, we sit in the studio, we're ready. Start feeding us information so that we can get it out there. What's happening, where is it happening, where do drivers have to go, where do pedestrians have to go, what schools are being locked. We have to kind of share all this information so people know what to do. That's so you go into emergency mode, and really the horror doesn't kind of sink in until maybe when you go home that night. And then you go, oh, that was terrible. That was terrible.
When you were saying that, because I was thinking, okay, TV news is pretty negative, but as you're saying it, I'm thinking, well, actually, it is negative, but it's in order to help people. Like when that lady was murdered in Bothell, that was right outside, they were in my yard. I'm like, oh.
Right. Uh-oh. Yeah, what's happening? What do I do?
And so I see that you're helping. I mean, it's like you are being that.
Right, the Aurora bus crash is an example.
My student was in it, my exchange student.
See? This horrible crash,
Yes.
So the motorists are affected, the students are affected, their families are affected, the tourists, all of the medical people are coming there. And so we're there to kind of show you this is happening. Please stay away. So motorists and people will stay away. Let the emergency people come and do their job. And it's just, getting information out there so that people know what's happening and will stay away. Stay away and let the medics do their job. Let the fire department do their job, the police, right?
I'm actually just seeing this very new, Lori. I was like, oh, you're helping. It is negative, but it is true. So let's get it out there. Oh, thank you. See, I didn't see.
But news isn't always negative too. Like, sometimes we just do stories about programs that are working or people that are doing marvelous things in the neighborhood. So that's part of the storytelling too. And originally, we're the only industry really, or the only profession that's guarded by the Constitution of the United States. The First Amendment provides for freedom of the press. And the reason is we're kind of like a watchdog on government. So we take that role very seriously. So it's not negative, but it is watchful. So when our investigative unit goes out and tries to explore institutions for the developmentally disabled, They're not trying to be negative. They're trying to show people what's happening, and if we don't like what's happening, can we change it? Or when they go out and do stories about state ferries and how they're bleeding money, it's not trying to be negative. It's showing people what's happening, and do you want this to continue or do you want to change it? It's always looking to watch government and make sure that, you know, it's doing good by the people.
Yes, and I certainly was helped with my little law back then. So, I mean, I definitely think media is good, but I was just thinking the negativity, but it's more, you have to show the truth in order to be able to have people make a difference. So.
I think King, and that's where experience maybe comes into play, they do kind of take into consideration the audience. They know the audience doesn't want to have too much blood and guts.
Yeah.
Some stations do that. They have every shooting and every knifing and every negative situation that you can imagine on their newscast. And I think we're trying to be a little more careful. We don't go after every bloody story. You know, we pick and choose, and we try to get something in the mix that's more positive, or something that's more funny, or something that's more amazing, or something that's environmental. Like we had whales, we had gray whales, pictures of gray whales on our newscast. For the only reason being that it's almost spring, gray whales come up here. Look at this picture of a gray whale.
Yeah.
So
It's cool.
So, you know, we try to pick and choose, and we try to bring a balance to the newscast, maybe that other stations don't. They have a different kind of newscast maybe than what we would have. And that's okay.
You've had a lot of opportunities to have these unique experiences since you're a local celebrity, and you donate to so many different causes and everything. So, what are some of those unique experiences that you like? So, what comes to mind is the Blue Angels. So,
okay. As a journalist, I am so blessed and fortunate because journalists get to do some stuff that the ordinary folks don't get to do, and that's our job. We do these really kind of on the edge stuff and share it. As if you were there.
Yes.
So I was fortunate. I didn't fly with the Blue Angels. I flew with the Thunderbirds.
Oh.
The U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds. And you know how that jet takes off. It doesn't just take off like a jet. It takes off like a rocket.
Yeah.
It goes straight up like a rocket. And we pulled 9 Gs on that morning. So, and I didn't throw up. So I think that's a huge achievement to pull 9 Gs and not throw up. I thought we did awesome.
Didn't you have footage of that or something?
Yeah, we did footage, and we had the anti-gravity glove thing going on.
What's that?
When you come down, you lose gravity. So there's a moment of weightlessness.
Oh, okay.
In the cockpit. So you float your glove, and it floats in weightlessness in front of you. So you experience weightlessness in this jet. It's just quite amazing.
Oh.
But I think the amazing thing about this job is I was able to go to China and follow then Governor Locke on his first trade mission to China, and he visited his ancestral village, and we got to see this little Chinese village that was like a centuries-old throwback. They didn't even have plumbing, indoor plumbing in this village. And so to travel to China with the governor was very special. To cover the 2 Olympics, Winter Olympics, one in Salt Lake City and one in Vancouver, fantastic. And to be this close to Apollo Ono, and to be this close to people who ride bobsleds and jump off ski jumps, and it was just very exciting stuff. And I was able to go to cover a post-earthquake in El Salvador, Nicaragua.
Wow.
So there was a lot of traveling, and that was really gratifying to me because it helped calm me down after one of the most difficult decisions I had in my career.
That's actually one of my questions. Oh, okay. Yes, tell us.
So I am here, in a wonderful television station in Seattle, but I'm thinking, is there something more? Can't I work for the network? Can't I be a network correspondent? Because then I can say, Lori Matsukawa, Cairo, Lori Matsukawa, Tokyo, Lori Matsukawa, Shanghai. So I did get a job offer through AAHA at one of their job fairs.
Nice.
And I was offered the chance to be a network correspondent out of Los Angeles. But then I had to look and my son is just in elementary school at the time, having a wonderful experience there. My husband is in a high-ranking, very demanding television job, but doing so well in Seattle. And I had to decide, do I uproot them and go to Los Angeles because I want to be a network correspondent? You know, what is the effect going to be on them? And so I thought about it, and then I decided I just really couldn't do that. I couldn't uproot them so that I could be a correspondent.
Aww.
So I turned it down, and guess what happened? After I turned them down is when I had the opportunity to go to Japan and report on American businesses in Japan. So I ended up traveling to all these different places, and I did end up saying Lori Matsukawa, King 5 News, Tokyo, Lori Matsukawa, King 5 News, Shanghai. Lori Matsukawa, I just was working for King. I wasn't working for the network, but I was traveling all around the world. I was going to the New Hampshire primaries and the Iowa caucuses and running into the same network correspondents, but I was reporting for King. But I was in the same place as these network people. So I was doing what I loved and traveling, and my family was growing up just happy as could be.
So what is the lesson there?
The lesson there is you have to listen to your heart. And my heart was saying, you know, we have a really good thing going here. And if your family is happy, you're happy. That was the bottom line. That was more important to me than any job. You know.
Don't make me cry.
Right?
Yeah.
And now I look back, I said, you know, that was a great decision because I could still travel and report. And my son, you know, grew up happy. He went to a really good college. You know, my husband went all the way up and worked his tail off and, you know, retired happy. What could be better than to have everybody be happy?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yay. Happy story.
Happy story.
So let's say that there was no broadcasting jobs. That's all gone and done. What profession do you think you might enjoy?
I think I'd always really wanted to be a teacher. Remember, I started off thinking I wanted to be a piano teacher, but I really think I could be a really good college-age teacher. I think I could be a good elementary school teacher. And I've always wanted to be an author. I wanted to write children's books. And I've never had a chance all these years to just publish these books.
When you're toothless.
When I'm toothless and wrinkled. So I've got these books, right, in my head, and I even have kind of a half a book already written. And so these are for kids. These are children's books.
So where's the inspiration for these books?
Again, from collecting all my news stories.
Okay.
You know, so much is happening on here with animals and with the environment and with just the interaction between people, all kinds of diverse people, people of different abilities, people with different backgrounds. I think those are the kinds of stories we have to share with our kids and help them understand the world around them and appreciate the world around them, because it's such a beautiful world, really. And so there's just a lot of material out there for kids.
So we'll check back when you're...
Yeah, when I'm writing my book and autographing my books.
Nice.
Yeah.
I need to look at my notes there. I like that. So let's get into a couple, like, managing things. What would you tell your 25-year-old self?
What would I tell my 25-year-old self? I would tell her to not be afraid of what other people think. You know, if you worry too much about what other people think, you're going to be cautious, you're going to be timid, you're going to be perhaps in the background when you shouldn't be. You might be less of a leader than you should be. So I would encourage my 25-year-old self to just go for it. You know, don't be afraid to lead.
Go for it. Did you hear that?
Don't be afraid to lead.
So when did
Don't be afraid to lead.
When did you decide to go for it? I mean, when did you get that confidence and know, hey, I don't care, or I'm going for it?
Well, part of it was just being asked some people would say, hey, Lori, would you like to start up a chapter of Asian American journalists in Seattle? Sure. Grab some people that you know, hey, let's go do this. And, you know, show energy and show interest, enthusiasm, and leadership kind of grows along with that. And just, you know, surround yourself with inspiring and wonderful people, and you end up doing inspiring, wonderful things yourself. I think that's how it worked for me. You know, I just kind of looked around me and said, who's doing really wonderful things? Maybe I should kind of like get to know them.
That's what I'm trying to do with my Women Who Go For It, being around wonderful people who are smart. So
Yeah.
let's talk about confidence. With the news and everything competitive, and it seems like there's just a lot going and it's very stressful, how do you manage your stress?
I don't manage stress very well.
Okay.
In fact, it was really bad because when I was younger, I would always break out in acne. Like, when I got too stressed, I would just erupt. And so I said, I've got to stop being stressed. I've got to think of something to do. And so what I do is I walk or I play golf. Amazing stress relievers. You know, some people do yoga, some people jog. I just go for a walk. Clears my mind. When I was working on my master's degree, I was working full time, and we had our son. He was still in elementary school, and I was, you know, working on my master's. So I'm doing 3 things, and I was really stressed. And I finally decided I've got to just take a walk. And every time I would take a walk, new ideas would come to my mind. I would just breathe a lot slower. I felt better. So walking helps. And when I golf, nothing interferes with my thought process when I'm out the golf course.
I'm just like, okay, it's a really stressful meeting. I gotta go and golf. I'll be seeing another 5 hours.
Right.
So do you have any mantras or ways to get your head back on straight if you're, I mean, let's say you're walking, but also to get rid of negative thoughts or just to keep focused? Do you have any mantras?
No. I just walked and looked and just appreciated everything around me. If it was cloudy, if it was sunny, if there were birds singing, if there were flowers blooming, whatever was around me would just kind of fill me with a feeling of peace.
Nature, you're Seattleizing it. You're bringing
Just
back to Seattle.
Total harmony and appreciating that. And in this job especially, you begin to realize that your problems don't amount to a hill of beans. You are surrounded by people who have so many more needs, so many more problems than you do. You cannot ever feel sorry for yourself or stressed out. There are people in such dire straits all around you, you know. Your problems are nothing compared to what other people might be experiencing. So out there walking and doing this job, everything kind of falls into place. You get a better perspective of, you know, there's a lot that I can do to help the situation and help other people. I have nothing to complain about. I really have nothing to complain about.
Are you working on any kind of projects? I know you do a lot of nonprofits. Are you working on any projects right now? Or?
Right now I'm on the board of the Japanese Cultural and Community Center. So that's a big project in that I help every year with their annual luncheon, which is coming up. And so that's a little time consuming. And then my husband is now a pastor. So I play the role of pastor's wife on Sundays. A new role for me. And I'm also kind of in a long-term news project about the effects of Executive Order 9066, the executive order that put all the Japanese Americans in internment camps during World War II. Working on a long-term project on that.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? I just interviewed, let's see, what was Star Trek guy?
Oh, George Takei.
Yeah, George Takei was at my National Speakers Association, and there was, there's a lot of controversy because they wanted to hear about Star Trek, but he was talking about the Japanese internment camps, and then people were like, I don't know.
What is that? They didn't understand
well,
it.
yeah, I mean, some of them didn't understand, but some of them, I don't know, I don't want to say too much. So I interviewed my mom and my aunt about it, but it was interesting because they didn't have a lot to say because
they were too young.
Well, and they weren't really supposed to say. And it was so, anyways, I want to hear what your project is about.
Okay, the idea is
Yeah.
in 2017 is the 75th anniversary of the signing of Executive Order 9066, which put 120,000 Japanese Americans in incarceration camps. On the 75th anniversary, here in Seattle, we have to know about it and how 9066 touched the lives of so many people here in Seattle. And so that's my working title, is Touched by 9066.
Oh.
And so not only were people here incarcerated in these camps, many of them going to Minidoka in Idaho, but the people here were also very instrumental in helping one another once they got out of camps. And so they actually stayed at the old Japanese language school. They call it the Hunt Hotel, because all these people from Hunt, Idaho came out of the camps, couldn't find housing, and lived at the Japanese language school in the classrooms, using the classrooms as apartments.
Did not know that.
For years, from like 1945 until 1959.
So I interviewed one of my, how is he related to me? My mom's uncle, before he died, and I have a little bit of footage from that. But most people who were adults and have passed on. So,
well, a part of them it was from interviews I've done in the past.
okay,
Here at King, but not only were people here sent to camps and then they came back from camps, but they were fighting the incarceration in the courts and going to jail for it. And then there were people who were fighting in the U.S. Army for the country, even though their families were in camps. And then there were people here fighting for redress, the government apology and payment for those who were there. So there were these people who were fighting for redress. And now there is a whole new generation, what we call the Yonsei, the fourth generation, who are artists and, artists, writers, filmmakers, who are documenting this experience for the future and applying it to today. We're not going to stand back and let the government do any kind of a violation like that again. We're not going to allow the government to violate anyone's constitutional rights again. So it's created kind of this really aware generation, and it's all happening right here in Seattle. I don't have to go anywhere really to cover the breadth of this story.
ooh, so I have some footage for you in case you want.
Okay.
So my relatives went to a farm. What format is this going to be? Like a written?
Just a series of short news stories, and then you can stitch them all together and maybe make a long form. But right now, it's just a project in the works, and I probably should. I'm saying too much about it, but this is something that is near to me.
Well,
and it's important for this region to know it. That there were so many people were touched by it, and not just Japanese Americans. There were newspaper editors who were touched by it. There were land developers who were touched by it, farmers who were touched by it. And they were not necessarily Japanese Americans.
I'm like trying to, it would be so neat to talk to some of the other folks who helped, like our relatives.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing, and families are so happy to talk about the positive role that their, relatives played in it. It's an amazing story. So many people here were touched by it. So it has to be told. So I'm the storyteller to do it.
Yay, because so my grandma and grandpa certainly didn't talk about it because they weren't, it was a shame for them, and so a lot of that, the older generation didn't talk about it. So it's neat to have the younger generation actually share. Now they have passed on, but to bring that back, and a lot of people, on the East Coast have no idea. So thank you, George Takei, for sharing that as well.
Yeah.
I'm a little emotional. All right.
Well, I didn't mean to, but
I don't know why.
But that's the thing. You have to tell the story, and that's perhaps why I'm here. I always wonder, why am I here? I know a lot of people probably wonder, why am I here on Earth? What's my purpose? What?
Also one of my questions.
And maybe that's my purpose. Maybe my purpose is to be a storyteller, first and foremost, and then to tell these kinds of stories.
Yeah, I think that's so important. So what is next for you? I know you're working on That's a Big Project, but is that maybe the books and maybe a teacher, or like?
I don't know. I don't know. This is such a wonderful job, but you know, I am getting a little tired, and it would be nice to change.
She's got her teeth though.
I know. So, but I think my future is to always be a storyteller. Just maybe not in this environment. Maybe I'll have another chance to be a storyteller someplace else, and doing something else. But I think I'm always going to be a storyteller, no matter what.
So last question, do you have advice for the women watching? These are professional women who are go-getters, and you've had a couple of years.
I would say, again, don't be afraid and don't worry about what other people think. You know, if you worry about your competition, if you worry about these other people around you, you're just defeating your own purpose and your own mission. You just have to kind of focus on your mission, keep going, 2 steps forward, maybe 1 step back, but always keep moving forward, and don't worry about the other people. You know, let them worry about themselves.
Go for it. That's what she was getting to.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lori.